What I do is fairly easy. You just take a camera and follow your nose, you know. Shoot a film, it's all an adventure. You don't worry about what people say because that's what they say. You don't have to write the script or worry about the wording, and you don't have to worry about who confronts who because that's what really happens. The only thing that ever bothered me was being a fly on the wall, and I didn't like to feel like a fly on the wall. I'd much rather be a friend in the room.
But it's so funny. I guess everybody feels that way. I guess Marilyn.
It's witnessing, and witnessing seems to be easier than contriving or creating. You try to create a performance, a theatrical performance. It's the theater that people go to see, the theater of whatever you're showing.
The way we decide our films almost every time is that somebody who has seen one of our films walks in the door and says, you should make a film about this. And it's happened on so many films, everything from when Penny did Don't Look Back on Bob Dylan.
Folk.
What is your real message?
My real message? Keep a good head and always carry a light bulb.
You know, to when we did The War Room.
Clinton and Brown have little in common except off-the-wall campaign gurus. It's James Carville, a Cajun who wears jeans with bright shirts.
It really works for us as documentary filmmakers to kind of go by those instincts. In the history of documentary films, the way that stories were told was very cumbersome. You couldn't just find something in real life that you wanted to tell a story about and take your camera and spend time with the person. It was very difficult, and that was the type of thing that Pennebaker and Leacock and Bob Drew and Maisels all tried to do in those early films. And I think it was an amazing accomplishment to technically innovate the type of equipment that can do that type of thing.
I started with an Airflex, was a kind of war camera, and it was a good camera, but it was a little noisy, so we had to make one. But we just took apart a camera that you could buy for about $300 or $400, and we just took it to pieces and replaced the gears with nylon. We did a whole lot of things to that body.
Eventually, you know, they made it so that it had a handle in the front, and you could put it on your shoulder, and they moved the eyepiece. And they worked with a lot of different people in the optics and camera industry to create this type of sync sound rig that became a staple of filmmaking really up until the video camera took over.
People were starting to make films on their own, as opposed to having to bring in a big crew and do it the Hollywood way. You wanted to walk around with a camera the way you walked around with a still camera. If you had to set up a tripod and put up lights, you didn't do that. You had a camera that you could put on your shoulder. You could hold it very steady, so you could use a long lens. Use a zoom lens, which gave you a wide angle, or you could go to 125 millimeter. I mean, you could get people's faces close up. And I think seeing people's faces is what the Hollywood film actually, that's their big thing. They close in on the face for the reaction. And they could do that because they shot it as a different shot. And you could do it as one shot. You didn't have to change anything. You just have to zoom in. You can't make filmmaking the important thing. The important thing is the person you're filming. And the filmmaking has to be just nothing. I really didn't know much about filming. I didn't know much about photography, in fact. So those rules, I just didn't know them. Somebody said to you about crossing the line, and I didn't even know what that meant. I knew that what you saw, the camera would get. It had that ability to not lie. And that, to me, was absolutely everything.
Our responses are, the better.
George and James.
I didn't even see what I was doing as very revolutionary. I just thought it was kind of like an experiment for myself.
He's one of the people that really launched a type of filmmaking that influenced so many different filmmakers, and I'm one of them. I feel kind of honored that people have identified stuff I've done as being worthwhile. That's what makes you feel good.
This kind of filmmaking, I don't think of it as documentary, but I don't know what else to call it because that's what everybody calls it. I think of them as movies.